the studio lights turned off. Now we're going to go ahead and turn off the master breaker for the whole house. You're going to hear a quick click and a little bit of a blink. Here we go. That's how fast it transfers over. That little dinky blink. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Rick and I'm a heating, air conditioning, refrigeration technician that also works on home standby generators. Generally, that's what my channel is all about, me making repairs on that kind of equipment out in the field. And that's the reason why EcoFlow reached out to me to do a comparison video between their brand new unit here, the EcoFlow DELTA Pro Ultra, and the home standby generators by Generac. Now, if you've seen any of my videos, I usually do repair videos on the repair of Generac generators, where I've got a misload of different problems that I run into. So I thought this video might be kind of interesting to put together for you. So today what we're going to be doing is going over what the key features and specifications of this unit is, what you can expect in the box, some of the other accessories such as the Smart Home Panel 2, and discuss the Power Insight tablet that's also available. Let's get started. Now when you get this behemoth in the mail, you're going to have to put it together. Now, just so you know, this top inverter here weighs about 72 pounds, and our battery section down on bottom weighs about 116 pounds. So first we take our right angle plug here, which this is really nice because it doesn't leave wires hanging all over the place. And we simply attach it here at the top and at bottom. We just align it there, and there's really no way to do this wrong because if you flip it around, it won't fit. And on the side here, we have a locking nut, which you could secure it by putting a screwdriver in there and simply turning it a quarter turn to lock it into place. That locks the actual push button so that it can't be pushed down, so it can't be pulled out. So now that we have the battery plugged into the inverter, let's go ahead and talk about what the inverter is capable of doing. What's really special about this machine is the fact that it can do 240 volt split phase power, which is going to give you enough power to run your heavy loads such as an air conditioner, a dryer, or a stove, or appliances such as that. Never before have they been able to have a portable power station that can produce that kind of wattage and that kind of power at that kind of voltage and actually be still portable. This is the minimum system here with just one battery, because this inverter is capable of having 5 extra batteries underneath this inverter. And if that's not enough power, you can actually add up to 3 power inverters together to get 21,600 watts. That's competitive with most any big home standby generators. Now, one thing to take in consideration is you're going to need the battery power behind it to make that thing last for a long duration. And each one of these batteries is rated at 6,100 watt hours. Now, for those out there that are new to the solar and power station game, a lot of people don't know the difference between watts and watt hours. A lot of these different terminologies get thrown around and it gets kind of confusing. So to make that kind of simple, just think of your wattage as the actual power that you're going to be using, such as a 100 watt light bulb, and you add that up, that's your total wattage. Now the watt hours is the actual capacity that's inside of the battery over a 1 hour period of time. Depending on how many watts you take away from that watt hour battery, that's how long it's going to last. So if you were to take 3,000 watts over an hour, that battery is going to last about 2 hours. So you can do the math from that point forward to kind of figure out what it's going to take. Now, one big difference between this and a gas generator is the fact that this actually can be sustainable. If the grid goes down and we actually have some major catastrophes going on to where we don't have natural gas, or if there's a problem with the propane delivery or something like that, this could actually keep going with the help of solar panels. Now this has 2 solar inputs, which can give you a total capacity of 5,600 watts. They have a high voltage and low voltage section for the solar panels, which we'll go into that here in just a second, along with the details of what it can do. And like I said, all that energy is stored right in these 6,100 watt hour batteries. Now these batteries do wear out over time. They're good for about 3,500 charge cycles, which is about 9.5 years. And it's going to have about 80% capacity at the end of that 9.5 years. Even with the 20% reduction, you're still at 4.9 kilowatt hours. So you're still at more watt hours than what most portable power stations you see on the market now. Now, one thing I've really liked about the EcoFlow's layout here is how simplistic it is. Right here on the left-hand side, we have the input wattage, and on the right side, we have the output wattage. We got clarification that we're running at 60 hertz sine wave. We've got the Wi-Fi emblem right here, and right beside it would be the Bluetooth. In the middle, it tells us that we have 1 battery connected, and it would read higher than that if there was more connected. In the middle is the state of charge for the battery, and down here at the bottom is an estimated time that the battery will last based off of how many watts that you're drawing off the battery. I'll throw up a screenshot of some of the other icons and stuff that you've got here on the display. This is a very large display, measuring right over 9 inches. Even though this power station is capable of running a whole home, they know that you're going to possibly be using this out in your RVs, camping, and all those other situations. And you may need a USB-C adapter, which it has 2 of those here on the front left-hand corner. These are rated at 100 watts a piece. And over here on the right, we have the USB-A's, and these are rated right at 12 watts a piece for a total of 24 watts. Now for communications, down in the bottom left-hand corner, we have a USB-A 4G dongle that can be added to the system. This allows you to have cellular communications if you don't have Wi-Fi available and you want to remotely be able to control the unit. Otherwise, you can use the Bluetooth while you're on site and you can control it without a dongle. Now on the front here, we have these magnetic flip-up covers which have a dust seal around them, and they are removable. So to remove these, you just put them at about a 90-degree angle, lift right up, and they pop out. So to make things simple, we'll go ahead and remove these. So here in the front, we have two outlets that are 120 volts, 20 amp backup UPS, meaning there's about a 20 millisecond transfer speed. So if you lose power while it's being powered off utility, you will have a 20 millisecond delay. Generally, that's not going to affect most computers. However, if you need to make absolutely sure you don't have any interruptions, you've got a 120 volt, 20 amp online UPS. There is no delay because there is no switching. It's constantly being powered right through off of the battery, so you're able to have full backup here. Now over to the right, we have a 120 volt, 30 amp online UPS system for our V-type style plug, which gives you 30 amp capacity at 120 volts. And off to the right here, we have the 120 volt, 240 volt, 30 amp plug, which is an L14-30, allowing you to have 240 or 120 volts. This is where you're going to get your maximum wattage out of the unit. Now here on the right-hand side, we have our Anderson plug, which is rated at 12.6 volts at 30 amps of current. This allows you to hook up your low voltage appliances such as refrigerators and other 12 volt appliances. Then below that is our MPPT solar connection point. This gives us a range of 30 volts to 150 volts DC, 15 amp max, which allows you to bring in up to 1600 watts of power from the solar. Below that is the ground screw for the chassis on the unit. To the right is our selectable speed switch for charging. We have fast on the left, which gives you 1800 watts of charging speed, and on the right hand side is selectable in the app. And finally down here at the very bottom is our 120 volt plug, which gives you a capability of charging at up to 1800 watts. And on our side cover here, this flops straight down and then pushes in. This is where your high voltage MPPT solar input is. This is rated at 80 volts to 450 volts DC and up to 4000 watts. They have a integrated switch right here on the side that allows you to shut off the power and to isolate the system from it. Now, one complaint that I've seen on this is the fact that it's kind of difficult to remove these connectors. To get your fingers in there to release it is nearly impossible. That's why EcoFlow provides you a tool. So if you're wondering what this was on the bottom of your cart that came with the machine, you're actually able to go in there and put that in between the actual release mechanism, and you're able to pull them out. Now for me, this is the power in out port that I've been using with my Smart Home Panel 2. Up till now, I haven't been able to use the front ports on the actual machine because everything I need is right here on this. This is where you're gonna get the most wattage transfer out of the machine. You're gonna get your fastest charging and you're gonna get your most power output out of right here. Now, of course, you can get that out of the front plug, but this here is just so simple. I don't have to do anything other than just plug it in and the switch kicks over. Now, this is also capable of doing EV charging. Now, you can pick up a dongle that allows you to charge this with EV charging stations, and they also have a dongle for the generators, which will allow you to get the fastest charging possible. Now, this can be charged with pretty much any regular generator that has a total harmonic distortion of less than 10%. So any halfway decent quality generator should be lower than that. Most of the home standby generators from Generac are right around 5%. Now my smallest generator is an inverter system, which has very clean power, the same type of clean power that these inverter systems here have. So obviously that would be the best system for it, the least chances of having any spikes. Now the same way this battery hooks up right here, you're able to do the next battery down by opening up this port, sliding it in. You'll have another one of these if you have another battery. You're going to plug it in there, and then on the next one it'll go down below it on the right, and then another one below there on the left, until you have a total of 5 batteries. Now, noise has always been a problem with most portable power stations out there, and that's definitely not going to be something we're going to have an issue with. Essentially what they're using is an aluminum plate, and they're mounting all the components that get really hot onto that aluminum plate, and they're transferring that by conduction through the aluminum plate out to the heat sinks out here on the back side, and they're running a fan through it. This unit is rated for up to 2000 watts, whether it's being charged or discharged, to not even need the fans to run. On my next video, I'm going to be doing testing that shows exactly how much noise this machine puts out. But I'll go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. When I was running this thing at about 4600 watts nonstop for over 15 minutes, and then stopped it and checked it with the actual SPL meter, holding it not even this far away from the fans, I had about 41 dB. So this thing can be kept near a bedroom without any worries of keeping somebody awake at night. Now, as you can imagine, that system's going to be really heavy if you happen to put 5 batteries on it. They do include this little coaster setup here. This is actually made out of metal, welded on here and here. They use corrugated type plastic connections here. The wheels do have locking, so they keep them so they won't turn left and right, and it keeps them from rolling. Now, they did include some rubber feet that you can put on it if you don't want it to move at all. But for right now, this actually does a really nice job. Now, they also have a 2-wheel cart for this machine that allows you to move the inverter and 1 battery. It allows you to kind of move over grass and other rough terrain. The main difference between that and a normal cart is it has clamp mechanisms to kind of clamp it down so they can't shift left and right. All right, we're finally to my favorite part, the Smart Switch 2. If you look at this front cover here, my wife even thinks this thing looks awesome. It is a glass front with their logo on it. It's very attractive. It is NEMA 3 rated, which means it's rainproof. It has a dust shield in here on the inside panel that keeps all the dust and stuff out. So basically you can mount this outside on the outside of the house if you need to, or you can mount it in the inside of the house. The dimensions of this, which I'll put up above, allows you to mount this in between studs, or you can mount it externally on the wall like I do here. The bottom section here is not rated for outdoor use, but it is separatable from the top section here. They have 4 wing nuts in there, and then you can run conduit from this to the actual switch mechanism. You can remotely mount this where it's convenient, whether it be in a closet or somewhere in the garage, wherever. To plug this in, it's simple as this. I grab my plug it right here on the side, lock it in. It's got the same twist lock there to keep it locked. You heard it click. It already knows that it's connected, and right now we're ready to rock and roll. Now up here on top is the Wi-Fi antenna. Coming right down to here, we have our interlock switch. So this is the 100 amp circuit that I have coming into the transfer panel from the main breaker panel. This is my 50 amp supply from the generator. And here's my circuits for the house. Now, EcoFlow provides you a total of 12 spaces here in this box, which I ended up using tandem breakers. As you'll notice, I had a 40 space box here, and when I built the house and wired it, I ended up going hog wild with wire. I literally ran every individual thing on its own circuit. I mean, even the smoke alarms are on its own circuit. Each bedroom's on its own circuit. The lights are in their own circuit. So to say the least, I had a lot of extra breakers in here, whereas most people would double up several different rooms to the maximum capacity because it's cheaper for them to wire a house that way. I didn't care, I wanted it done right. Now, the way I did wire these up, though, to make sure that I didn't overload the circuitry here, is I put like a heavy load with a light load. So like my furnace here in the living room, so the living room doesn't pull anything. The furnace has an ECM motor in it, so it's very efficient. Like my basement receptacles and my basement lights, there's no major loads there. South bed and kitchen west on another, and then the heat pump here. Now, this is a 2.5 ton heat pump. This inverter system is rated for up to 3-ton air conditioner or heat pump. The way they are rating this maximum capacity of what kind of unit it can run, they're doing it off the locked rotor amps, LRA. If it has a locked rotor amps under 120 amps, then they say it can run it. Now, the thing you're going to run into is when you have all these other circuits running, whether it be the furnace, the well has quite an inrush. So when it kicks on, it spikes way up there. Same thing with my heat pump. When we go into the next video that I did where I showed me installing this and actually putting things together, I actually did my inrush values on it, and the heat pump actually pulls about 52 amps per instantaneous second. That's where the inverter system down here that can run 10,800 watts for 10 seconds is able to handle that kind of load. Now, there is things that you can do to your air conditioner, such as adding a hard start or a soft start to make that starting amperage lower, which will allow you to run, a bigger system. But here's the thing you got to keep in mind. My heat pump there pulls about 2,000 watts. And with this battery being 6,000 watt hours, I could only run this thing for 3 hours, and that's assuming I don't power the furnace. So you're going to drain your system really quick. If you're wanting to run a dryer or a water heater that's electric, you're going to drain it down really quickly. Now, if you have a mini split, those are pretty energy efficient. They start off very slow. They're inverter based, so you can get away with quite a few different things with that. But all the technology here is in this switch here. And like I said, to keep this video short, because I know attention spans can get lost when you just rattle on about all the different specifications, I'm going to split this video up into at least 2 segments. Theoretically, I might be even 4. But we're going to have 2 dedicated videos where it's purely all in on the machinery. We went over all the specs and what the system can do. Now we're going to go over what the transfer switch can do, because when this is hooked up to the inverter system, all your control settings are in the actual transfer switch, the Smart Home Panel 2. This Smart Home Panel 2 is what I feel makes the whole system worth it. I don't want to have to get up and flip manual transfer switches and stuff like that. If you're going to invest this amount of money into a system, my feeling is go all the way in and just get the transfer switch. Otherwise, you might as well grab a gas generator, because you're still going to have to go outside, hook it up, run the wires and all that stuff. It's still a big hassle. Now granted, it's not as bad as what the generator is, but it can be a pain in the butt. What we're going to do here is we're going to mimic the power going out. This is my main breaker. Below that is my interlock switch. This interlock switch is the same as what we have over here, but this is what I had before installing the Smart Panel 2. This allowed me to hook up a gas generator or any kind of generator so that I was able to safely control the system. This right here is probably the cheapest way that you can put in a whole house connections point, because when you install this little piece of metal here, it does not allow the generator to turn on. Right now that's blocking it from going on. So what has to happen is to have to turn off the main first, shove that up, and then you can flip it over. All right, so I have the studio lights turned off. Now we're going to go ahead and turn off the master breaker for the whole house. You're going to hear a quick click and a little bit of a blink. Here we go. That's how fast it transfers over, that little dinky blink. In my testing that I'm going to be doing on the next video, I have an oscilloscope hooked up. We're going to be showing the waveform pattern, which I'll go ahead and throw out there now. It's flawless. Right now, we're able to flip the generator on if it was running, and then we could power and charge our batteries, because currently I don't have any solar. The solar panels that I do have are portable solar panels. For right now, we're running on the actual battery system. As you can see here, we're running right about 948 watts. Nothing's coming into the system right now to charge it, because we don't have any power from the grid. All right, you can see down here we have a green light. That is a diagnostic light. It will blink red, it'll blink green or solid. And you've got a set of codes that go along with that. Over here we have the grid light, which is red. That tells you that the grid is dead. And you have an emergency power station switch here, which if you hit that, it disconnects everything away from the transfer switch and kills everything. Now, one thing to keep in mind, when this thing is to be installed, EcoFlow wants you to have a licensed certified electrician to install it. That way you know that everything is done to code, that if there's any permits or anything like that that needs to be done, they can all be done above board, and you don't have to find out later that you did something wrong. There's no damage done to the transfer switch, because EcoFlow does back all this stuff up with some really good warranties. So the battery and the actual inverter system has a 5-year warranty on it. The transfer switch, the Smart Home Panel 2, has 10-year warranty on it. I did speak with my representative and I asked who pays for the shipping, because that battery weighing 116 pounds is going to cost a couple bucks to ship. Same thing with the 70-pound inverter system. EcoFlow takes care of all of that. EcoFlow also has a special deal for people that live in Texas and in California that allows someone to come out and do some analysis of your house and what you need. So check their website out for that. Down below the video, you're going to see a More button. Click on that and you'll be able to see links to everything that you're going to want to know. I'm also going to have discount codes down below there to save yourself some money. EcoFlow has a bunch of different sales going on. Now, the way I originally wired this up, so I have a total of 3 of these generator inlet boxes. So I've got one of these in the garage, I got one in the barn, and I got one inside the house here. You're able to hook it up the old-fashioned way. So I need to turn this main back on. Now, for me to show you how to wire this up without having to purchase the smart panel switch is pretty simple. This will not work independently, so we're going to turn that off. We're going to disconnect our power wire there, and we're going to go ahead and disconnect it from down here just in case. You cannot turn on any of the outlets here on the front unless that cable that I just unhooked is unhooked. Just like with a normal gas generator, you're able to take your plug it in, twist lock it, hook it up to your 240 volt outlet. Right now I've got the AC power on. Now, that is one thing about this unit that some people ask about. If it goes completely dead and you're not home, will it come back on when you're done? They do have that as an option in the app. It's called always on. So yes, you can do that, and that option is turned on. Now, this thing is technically powering my actual generator box. You can see here that I have a green light, which tells me I have power on this box. So the power goes out. You can do this a couple different ways. So we come over here, same thing we had before. The power goes out, it's gonna go dark, like that. Now, these lights are running on a actual battery station. Now that we turned off this 200 amp breaker, I'm able to lift that plate up. Now I can pull the generator over to there, and we should get our power back on like that. Right now we're running the easy sleazy way. Right now we're able to power the box just like normal, which in reality, what this here would be is you'd have a sub panel box over here, or theoretically, you wouldn't even have to have a sub panel box, but most people, what they'll do is they'll have a sub panel box, which allows you to send a set of dedicated circuits here, like you have here, of your most essential circuits. What I did before was I actually came through here and marked off anything that was high amperage, like my barn, my dryer, well pump, stuff like that, or what have you. And I went through and it just shut those things off. If I didn't need it, I just basically had to do it manually. As you can see, it's so much nicer to have it already set up. Power goes out, boom, it flips over. I ain't got to think about nothing. You know, I'm going to get at least a few hours out of this thing. It could be as much as 6 hours. I pull a lot of power with this house, so when you look at my app, you can see how much I pull, and there's sometimes when I run the actual AC, I can get well over 2,500 watt hours easily in one day. So it's going to take a lot of battery power. So with me not having solar to offset some of that power, I've got to have the generators as backup. What's nice is the generators just ran and ran and ran for no good reason when there was not much of a load. I'll be able to use those generators to charge this up really quickly, then I can shut them off and go back into stealth mode. Because let's face it, a lot of people that are buying these are trying to prep and they want to